Go.
Oh.
Hey, guys.
Oh, I didn't even focus.
I think this is Scotch for Dummies. I don't know. What are we doing here tonight?
We don't know.
Who are you?
We're trying to get it together.
So I've been asked to come in today to talk about some topics. I'm not sure which ones they are, but we'll see.
There we go.
We got set head. Are we focused? Yeah, we're good.
We were busy doing other stuff before this happened, so.
We were.
There we go. Somebody hit a button and we went live.
Well, cheers, guys. Happy Thursday. How about
Happy
that?
Thursday.
Everyone.
We'll drink to you,
Cheers.
buddy.
All right.
Oh,
Decent
night.
virgin oak in there.
You know, it's been a while since I've been here, guys.
It has been
It has
a
been
long
quite
time.
a long time. People have been asking about you. We told them you were still around.
Well, I think we came up with a good topic for tonight. At least that's what I understand. If you guys want to.
I assume you were in Northern Africa looking at the forests of cork trees.
I actually got to peel some cork while I was
There we go. There we go.
You did.
Like a safari.
Yeah, you have this big like metal rod that you go behind the bark. You start to peel it and wedge it off. I don't know how it doesn't kill the tree, but they say it doesn't. So
how's that go again?
Gentle.
I want to see. Yeah,
I know you're pretty animated there.
yeah
it
right.
was.
Okay.
I mean, it's a big deal. It's
Do
strong.
a dance
It's
Yeah.
gonna
move
be
or
strong.
I mean, it is a tree, right?
It is.
So there you go.
Yeah, shrubbery.
What exactly are we talking about again?
Don't even know. He's doing something with trees. I don't know.
All right, Dr. Scotch here, and tonight we are talking about corks.
Corks.
No corking way.
And the cool thing about corks is, number one, mostly they're used for wine, admittedly. That's the biggest market. But Scotch bottles have an awful lot of corks. Whiskey bottles all over. Generally, high-end whiskeys will have those corks. So what does a cork
We've also
do?
got different kinds of corks that aren't made from a tree. We've got synth. We've got glass. We've got good old-fashioned screw tops.
I like
Yep.
those screw tops. Those screw
Yep.
tops may be the most efficient, and thus what Dr. Scotch approved.
There we go.
Dr. Scotch. That is because they're pretty cheap
But
too.
but
right?
before all that happened, cork was a sealant, right?
So cork, the amazing thing about cork is the earliest recording of noticing cork was 3000 BC. They're using cork for floats. They were using cork to seal containers. Everything we use cork for now, they were using it 5,000 years ago. Now, it may have been used before that, but the records are a little bit shady before 3000.
Fishing bobbers.
Yep.
That's what I'm talking about.
And that's what they use it for. And the amazing thing about cork is it only grows in really there's one region of the country, and it's really around the Mediterranean. Portugal, Spain, Italy, some North Africa, but it's a really narrow band of countries that are able to actually grow real cork. But it is sustainable. So the greenies out there love some real cork.
Is that an outtake?
I mean,
What?
I enjoy cork.
Uh-huh.
I guess if it's the classic closure,
It is.
right?
Again, that is why many, I think, distilleries and wineries still use the glass or use the cork, the actual cork. Tradition.
Okay.
A lot of tradition with it. But if Drew can give us a little tech support here.
I'm multitasking with tech support. So keep
He's
going.
doing tech support here.
All right.
So we have some I had to get some diagrams to be able to show. This is a video/podcast. So we wanted to show kind of the background of cork, the science of cork, why we use it, what's the downside of using it, how it's produced, the different grades of cork, all these kind of things. It's really it's actually kind of a major industry that there are up to 10 different grades of cork that you can purchase depending on what you're using it for. Are you using granulated? Are you using, super pristine cork and things like that? So we'll get into that today. But first we have to start with the tree.
I can't wait for the visuals.
These visuals are going to be outstanding.
Ross Perot style, man. This is going to be awesome.
Hey, man.
Hey man, today, have you seen the pie chart on what is going on here? No.
Pretty good.
So the tree that grows it's a cork oak. It is actually an evergreen oak, Quercus cerber. Or I think is what we have. I had it in my notes here. I'm not good with Latin, so that's why I'm not great with the actual name here.
Corcus among us.
Aurelius.
But it is in the notes if Drew could bring that up. Quercus suber is the cork oak. Yeah, there you go. So what you have here on this diagram is a pile of peeled cork from cork trees. And what they do is every 7 years or so, they can go in and they can actually peel this outer layer of cork off the tree. The tree is perfectly fine. And these trees will last up to 200 years and peeling their cork every 7 years to generate this material.
Kind of like peeling an orange or something.
It's very much what it is like. We've got some diagrams later that will go through that. But so what they do is they take this cork they've peeled from the tree, and then they slice it. They slice it basically cross grain like that. And if you go to the next diagram, they then will punch the cork out of those rings essentially that they cut. If you can see in this picture, the outer layer is the bark. The side farthest from you is what touches the inside of the tree. And then, so they cut these slices, and then they go through and they punch these corks out.
So that first picture we saw is the side, like what exactly does that fit? How does that fit in here again?
So if you go back to the first picture, you've got what is basically the cross section of a tree. This is the end, looking at the end of the cork as they've peeled it off, like a wine bottle cork.
So that's multiple trees.
Yeah, that's multiple trees. They've peeled it off, they've piled them up.
Okay.
And this is kind of how they gather it.
I see.
And then
now.
what they've done is, like, if you go to the upper left, there's that circle of cork there. What they've done is they've sliced it crossways. So you're looking at the end of the cork. On the next page, it's the top of the cork.
So it's this piece up here and the top. Okay.
So then they slice them to roughly 2 inches long, whatever the typical length of the cork is. And then they have a machine that goes, and then they feed this cork in, and it punches these blanks out of that cork to produce the wine corks. Now these corks can also be broken in smaller pieces for other types of cork.
They used to do it by hand. Those ones are really expensive.
I'm just watching Mark because it's hard for him to resist cork jokes at this point.
I'm
He's
dying here. I'm just dying.
He's all corked up.
So you said the peeling goes up to the first branches on the tree?
Well, it can even go up if the branches are big enough. It can even go up higher than that.
So they're getting. I mean, this tree grows to like 70 to 100 feet tall.
Yeah.
So they're getting an awful lot of cork off of one tree.
Yeah, so they can't peel the cork until
It's just
the
like a
first
bizarro
25
conversation.
I know. You're dying over there, and you're saying comments. You gotta stop.
because we can hear those comments about it.
I'm not saying anything. Those are just in my head.
The words coming out of your mouth.
So yes, they can peel this cork for many years and get a lot of cork per tree.
So you're saying if they could peel up 25 feet, let's say, and then every 2 inches they're slicing that peel into strips to
Rings.
make blanks out of.
Yes.
So that's a fair amount of blanks.
There's
you
a
can get
lot
out
of
one
wood.
tree.
Yeah, and you can these trees don't grow like in the most accessible places. So pulling this material out isn't cheap. But yeah,
But these corks do grow on trees.
yes, they do.
See, it's going to be a
He
bad
can't
night.
even help himself.
I know he can't control himself. So there's a ton of corks coming off these trees.
Yes.
And so different sizes. Obviously, I saw the picture. You can different circles, whatever. On these corks, we'll fill in. Are they pretty much every type of bottle, wine, whiskey, everything?
They can be. Let's go to the next. I want to go a little bit more into the science of the development of cork. The next diagram is the actual cross section of a cork tree.
Ooh.
So the
Well, would you
thing
look at
that's
there?
unique about the cork oak is you've got this outer periderm that is essentially loose. The vascular cambium is where the actual cork cells are generated, and as the tree grows, it creates this layer that's the real bark, the living phloem is the bark that the tree needs. So like if you girdle a tree, like a regular pine tree, you peel that living phloem off and you kill the tree.
Right.
But what happens with cork oaks is that phloem essentially continues to grow, and then the outer layers die and kind of push away. And that pushing away is what creates the
layers?
the layers of cork that you can actually peel off without hurting the tree.
This kind of
And that's
stuff
why
right there.
that stuff right there. And so those additional layers that grow over time are what creates that cork that is several inches thick.
So I'm assuming that's why they have to let it grow until it's 25 years old, right? They
Yeah.
need that heartwood and sapwood buildup of the tree, and then they're essentially does it get much bigger than that then?
Oh yeah, they get to be very large trees. Now, like you'll see if you have a maple tree or any other pine tree, when you see the bark of a young tree, doesn't look like the bark of an old tree. It's just it's thinner, and that's the same thing with these cork oaks. So you grow it up to 25 years, you do the first peel, and that cork is pretty bad because it's got all that thin cork or thin bark from before.
25 years worth of beating.
That too. And so that may be used ground up for the ground cork, but then after that it gets better. The bigger the trees, the better the corks.
I didn't even try for that one, Drew. That was honest.
I mean, it was actually a legit question, but we know you.
Yes.
You guys are projecting now.
Whatever.
Oh my gosh.
So they're peeling the cork every 7-ish
7
years.
Yeah.
Do they wait till it gets to a certain thickness before
Generally,
they do that?
that's the best. So that way, so if you go back up one, you'll see there's a couple layers of kind of not great material on the outside there.
Right.
And the thicker it is, the better that inner layer is because it's just a more mature tree.
Will that layer of cork tree actually just start to fall off if you never peeled it? After like 30, 40, 50 years on a natural tree, if it's never peeled off, will it actually come off? Kind of like some of the trees here in the United States.
Like the whatever lacy
poplar
bark
trees.
I don't know that. That may be where they first found this.
Mm-hmm.
Is in the 5,000 years ago, they found this cork peeling off the tree and it was really light. These corks are about 1/5 the density of water. So they just float really easily on the water. And that's what is telling
bobbers.
Fish and bobbers, yeah.
Bobbers.
So they saw.
I'll be damned.
All right. So the next diagram I think is one of the most interesting scientifically to me. So this picture.
This picture is the one that you like the best?
It is, because this picture was drawn in 1663 as the first basically representation of a cell under a microscope. So this, I remember who the scientist was, but he took slices of cork and put them under a microscope. And notice these images. So on the left is the diagram of when you basically the cross section of the tree, and then like you can see the rings in it. And the other one is basically in line with the width of the radius of the tree. And these little chambers, this is the first time anybody ever noticed a cell in 1663. This is the first representation of anybody calling anything a cell, like at the cellular level, was based on cork oak.
That's crazy.
And all those little pockets are what makes it less dense, what makes it compressible, which is great for sealing bottles. And all of those little cells are coated with a waxy substance that is waterproof. So it doesn't absorb the water. It keeps your wine in your bottle, keeps your whiskey in your bottle.
Yeah, but it's susceptible to being damaged by higher proof
Alcohol.
So this was from the 1600s,
1663
right?
was when this.
So this was obviously a product that was useful and in need of study, or they wouldn't have. I mean,
they've been using it for 5,000 years
to
seal
up
bottles.
With the name cork? Did they call it cork 5,000 years ago?
Well, it's because cork is Cerber. No, I don't know. I don't know where the name cork came from, but
I bet you Robert named
the tree
cork.
does make sense. The name of the tree, so I'll give you.
All right,
cork oak. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So waxy substance, waterproof, and compressible.
It's like this perfect compound for sealing containers, because you can push it into an opening. It holds in there. It compresses. It holds it. Seals tight. It can adjust around non-uniform bottle tops. So it can, if you're making a clay pot, it can seal a clay pot, because even if it's out around, it'll adjust and squeeze and fit.
Well, I wouldn't go so far as to say it's perfect, because obviously it's not perfect if you've ever owned a bottle of Deanston.
What are you saying? 15. But the beauty is, when did they start distilling whiskey?
Hell,
1500s?
Yeah.
See? They've been using it for thousands of years before whiskey was ever created. So they didn't know that issue.
There you go.
So to Mark's point, and we'll get into this a little deeper with, I know you got some real examples here, but why are some corks worse than others? I mean, assuming, okay, so the Deanston 20 lineage, obviously, I think almost 75% of the ones I've ever opened break, and I'm sure there's a few other ones. But is there such thing as a bad batch? I mean, I know we can talk about whiskey and other things, influencing and deteriorating corks and et cetera, but are there just bad batches of cork? I mean, if they're so good.
There's different grades of cork. So you saw in the diagram earlier, when they pulled those corks out, there were a lot of, keep going up to that one.
Oh,
See, there are a lot of holes in that. It's a very permeable cork. As part of doing research for this, I found the Natural Cork Council. This is an amazing organization that has really great information on their website about different corks.
Super exciting group.
And if you'll go to the visual grading tab that we talked about earlier up on the NCC.
The website itself?
The website, yeah.
This one?
That one. Their visual grading. Now, this it's the Natural Cork Council, only has 3 different grades of corks on their website. Depending on who you talk to, they may be up to 10. But see, you have grade A cork, and look at how clean that cork is. There aren't many holes that run through it. It's real light. It's real clean. It has very few blemishes on it. But as you go through the different grades, you add more holes. You add more variation in the thickness of the different striations through it. And then to grade C has much more. And so you have different grades of cork. And grade A cork is much more expensive than a grade C, D, E, or F.
So has this group got like a membership? Can we just buy into this? I mean, so I can say I'm a member of the Natural Cork Commission.
I did not try to log into their website.
No worm.
No wormholes.
Yeah.
See, this one has cracks in cork cracks and channels that exceed 55% of cork length. So these cracks can really affect the permeability of that cork material.
So that makes sense.
Is this just safe to say that basically the picture you showed earlier with that stave looking thing, that just some samples are stronger than others? So these are the grade C's are just the weak wood.
They're a weaker. Wood. They may be a younger tree. They may have a different environment that doesn't create as uniform of cork.
Or it just could have been the weather over that 7 years. Correct. And, they had a couple bad years and it made for, more holes in the cork or whatever.
Yeah, it is absolutely a natural product. You will never get 2 corks that look alike.
Is there a life range on a cork? Like how long can they last? Do you have any idea on that one?
Break down.
They will, but it's very slow, which is part of the reason why we still find corks from ancient Egypt. Because if they're dry and maintained, they're antimicrobial. They have an amazing ability to not break down. They can under the right conditions, but generally they don't. The waxy coating on them and the air in them just makes them.
So what happens when you hear the term, this bottle's corked?
Yes.
What are we talking about then? We're just talking about a bad cork that probably let a lot of oxygen into the fluid, and that's what's ruined it?
No, that is a contamination of the cork material itself by 2,4,6 trianazole. I think we've got there's a diagram on my Word document that we talked through. I'm going to make Drew get upset here. If we go back to the Word document, keep going down, and that is trichloroanisole.
Boy, that looks exciting.
That is so exciting. That is a chemical.
It's a hexagon.
That is formed generally by fungus and other
among us
other bacteria that could be associated with the cork the cork bark. But the weird thing about that is the fungus. It's a fungicide that they put on the trees, which is trichlorophenol, which is converted by the fungi into trichloroanisole, which contaminates your cork.
Thank God for Dr. Scotch being here right now.
Right.
So in
I'll
order
take your word
to
for it.
try to preserve the cork, they're using an antifungal, which makes the cork taint the product that it's supposed to be protecting.
Potentially, yes.
Wow.
That seems like a big problem.
So if they just leave it alone, maybe.
So this trichloroanisole will extract into wine and whiskey, and it'll leave like a wet newspaper kind of flavor. It's an off flavor in whiskey and wine. The data I show said that it was about $1 billion a year in cork material.
$1 billion.
I'm guessing that it doesn't take much to contaminate your whiskey. Right?
I don't know that.
Parts per billion kind of thing?
Oh, I did see that. It is in the ppm, ppb level. Yeah, it's really, really sensitive.
Interesting.
All right.
Wow, that's
we've all
crazy.
experienced that.
So that is probably the largest downside of natural corks is the potential contamination and potential corking of your liquid that you're sealing. And they are a little bit, the price is somewhat negotiable depending on the grade of cork you're getting. So the more expensive cork, the more it could break. But natural cork, it's renewable. It's got all that great figure. And plus, it's tradition. And the cork tradition is, I think, quite honestly, is why everybody's still using natural cork.
I would agree
There's
with
really
that.
there's only one other advantage that I know of to natural over synthetic, and that is really the oxygen permeability. These natural corks, they really do not permit oxygen. That's why you have 50-year-old wine that is still fine with a natural cork, because that cork is amazing.
You're telling me synth won't do that?
Synth is less or is more permeable to oxygen.
Oh, no kidding.
So in the restaurant industry years and years ago, I remember when wines started to go to the screw top closures and the synthetic corks. Most of the stuff that started that was the lower end products. But what I've found over the course of time is that, especially the screw top caps, you get mid-tier wines using it now because it provides a better level of protection. You don't have to worry about cork taint. You get a much more consistent product. I'm sure the bottling lines are a little bit easier to set up. It's probably cheaper to get screw closures rather than cork closures. And so I'm wondering, as we move forward in time, like I see more synthetic corks now in whiskey, and usually it's the cheaper blends that you see with the screw top closures, but I wonder if you'll end up with some mid-tier stuff that
Tradition versus
just has to go to it, or it's just prohibitively expensive to use cork over a long period of time because you can't provide it for everything.
It does maybe it's just me, but it does seem like a cheaper thing with a screw top. I'm not a big fan of that, but I mean, I won't say who, because I think it might be a trivia question later, but I know there are some countries that prefer that because of that exact reason. They know that it's safer and it'll last longer without any more issues, because when you add a cork in there, you're asking for potential problems.
Well,
with a screw top, you're not going to have
Let me
any.
ask you, if you had 2 bottles of Deanston 20 and one was a screw top and one was a cork closure, which one would you buy?
Good.
I
don't know.
So now there's also glass corks. You've got one here.
Yeah.
But the question I have is if alcohol deteriorates this cork, right, then why is it that they want to store wine bottles on the side and keep the cork moist?
It keeps the cork expanded in the bottle. And there's not enough alcohol content in wine to break the wax down.
Right.
That's exactly
Whereas
right.
the alcohol, the whiskey has more
And you
alcohol.
don't want it to be expanded that tight in a whiskey bottle that you're going to be opening and pouring and closing and opening and pouring and closing and popping the
Well, and because wine has a lower alcohol content, it's more susceptible to turning into things like vinegar. And so if you're allowing too much air from the outside to get in there, you're going to actually ruin the wine. Whereas the whiskey with the higher alcohol content is going to essentially stay, fairly the same. You don't have to worry about coming in and finding a moldy bottle of whiskey.
That's true.
Yeah, if you could go to the types of corks, that's the next thing. So this is an interesting concept. So when we talk about corks, there are very many grades of natural cork that can be used in different sizes, shapes, and types. So we have what we saw as the natural cork, full natural cork punched out of a single bark. But when you move down, there are different grades of that too. There's these culminated corks that are basically natural, but they've taken almost like a paste and filled in all the gaps.
Yeah.
So it's still natural cork, but they've filled all the gaps to maybe take a less expensive or lower grade cork and make it seal as tight as a regular cork. Then the next one you get into are some of these champagne corks. So if you'll notice, these corks have a layer on the bottom of natural cork designed to, really protect the liquid integrity and the gas integrity. And then there's a granulated cork on top of that to create the body and to actually hold it into the.
Feels like the IKEA cork.
Well,
a little bit.
That's like plywood compared to just
Right.
Well,
compressed.
It's because they've got so much more pressure that they have to deal with.
And that's correct. The normal natural cork wouldn't be able to stay in the bottle because it needs that. It's not as tough. These technical corks, which is something I haven't seen a lot of, but they've got nice layer of cork on the top and bottom and then granulated in the center. Then you have fully granulated ones, which are kinds you see in more or less expensive wines. But the key also with these is if you look on the bottom, these granulated corks are agglomerated, as they call them. They're not good for maturation. It's only for short duration wines. They allow too much oxygen transfer.
I see.
They're not designed for mature wines. And so if you go to the upper ones, those can be matured longer. And then you have your bar top cork. And this is what whiskey drinkers are most used to seeing. These are designed for to be able to take in and out of bottles because you don't finish a whiskey bottle in one opening. Wine is more common to finish that the first time you open it.
So is this a grade A then type cork?
Well, not necessarily. This one looks like a grade A,
Yeah,
but it's
this
a bar
one looks
top.
at it.
The thing about that is interesting about these bar top corks is they're shorter for one,
Yeah.
but you're not as worried about oxygen permeation because they have the plastic or metal or whatever top on
Seal
it.
it.
So,
Topper.
Yeah.
so these bar top corks can be cork, but they can also be synthetic without allowing oxygen in because you've got the barrier of the plastic or whatever on top of it preventing the oxygen flow.
Okay.
So it's kind of an advantage of that. This is why you see these shorter corks in whiskeys and wines because they're made to open and take in and take out. And by putting the topper on it, it prevents any oxygen.
So we'll talk about this at the end of the show, but we were at a pretty cool place this weekend, and something that Amanda said was, and we've heard this before, but and maybe we can get in the weeds here a little bit, but I guess there's tons of places to get corks from, and I guess maybe that's it. Like, who do you go to? Who's your cork distiller? What batches do they get?
Yep.
And I guess you could have bad batches, but one of the things that she brought up about synthetics, and I don't know if it's preferable or not, but there's a bleaching aspect to it that could happen in some synthetics. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So basically, if you're putting your whiskey on the side, and that whiskey touches that bleaching process of that cork, it can actually ruin your whiskey.
Yeah, depending on how they're treated, they if you want to make a cork look nicer, you can bleach it. And so that's why you may have some corks that will cause cork taint and things like that.
This is a synthetic right here.
Yeah, there's a
And
synthetic.
it looks like it's bleach, but it's hard. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, these are oftentimes extruded polyethylene, things like that. That's a soft mixture. If you'll see on this cork you can't see it on the screen, but there's like a groove in the side of it to allow it to squeeze into the bottle better. And so these synthetic corks are typically not as pliable as if you can see, you're not gonna be able to see it.
Yeah.
These synthetic corks are typically not as pliable as the natural. You can take
They're pretty tough.
they're hard.
Yeah.
But they still allow air through, but they provide just about as good a seal in a nice round bottle. If there's any variation, then natural or synthetic corks will not really work for you.
Huh.
I like the concept of the glass ones, but there's one or two bottles we've had over the years that damn near impossible to get off. It's like they freeze.
That's one of them.
So really, the natural cork provides a better seal than any of the synthetic products.
It does. It allows for better flexibility with bottleneck diameter variations, which you're going to have anytime you make a glass bottle. There's going to be variations. It seals better. It's better oxygen permeation. But for whiskey, it's a problem because the high alcohol content will break down that waxy coating and break down your cork.
That's why you should never store your whiskey in the side.
That is correct. There's even debate. Is it worth flipping it every now and again to put a little bit of moisture on there?
I would
But
say
again,
no.
every time you're
No.
doing it, you're going to dehydrate it a little bit
Right,
more.
You're dehydrating it more than you're hydrating it.
That's correct. Now, maybe you take the cork out and dip it in some water for a while. But again, these corks are not designed to have to be hydrated. As long as you have
right.
this,
The
as long
natural
as you have
property of
the
it,
the capper on it.
the natural property of that cork, it repels water. It's got a waxy coating all throughout its core, so it's not putting it in water.
Yeah. Now with wine corks, they don't have the metal or plastic on top of them. In many cases, the cork is fully exposed,
Right.
and so those will dry out. The top will dry out, and it'll over time kind of shrink into the bottle and get narrower. And that's why you do want wine on its side to keep the cork hydrated. So
And expanded.
because if the
Right.
cork starts to dehydrate and shrinks a little, it'll let a little wine out, which will then re-expand the cork. So it's like a perfect. I mean, it's an amazing compound.
Interesting.
Do you have any questions for the
doc?
Scotch process or the whiskey cork process?
Something else too. We don't have to get into it too much, but I mean corks, and it's kind of a partnership, if you will. Though after a certain amount of time, I mean it's oxidation. I can't say the word. About getting too much air in the bottle, so you have to be careful sometimes too when when do you actually put air in, or do you not put air in, or do you just drink it like it's a zebra because it's
That's
Well,
the spirit.
that's the spirit.
Yeah.
Right?
Oxygen can oxidize flavor compounds in the whiskey. It's better to keep oxygen out if you can, but I don't know if we've ever had a bottle last long enough to say, oh, it's bad after.
We've had a few.
certain-
It's just has lost its sweetness and fruitiness.
If you
That-
leave the heel sit
White
around
Walker.
too long.
That White Walker changed sitting
Yeah.
open,
Yeah.
and that is a
It's
screw
for
top.
better.
Yeah, well, I'm
Yeah.
not saying.
Yeah, it's not
I'm
as
not saying good or
normal.
bad, but it did change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? That was meant to be probably drank within the first 2 months of production.
Yeah.
I don't know
For
if
sure.
that was meant to be drank.
Meant to be purchased. How about
Yeah,
that?
there you go.
There you go. There you go. I find this fascinating, Andrew. It's
Well, it's big business.
yeah. Well, and I'd never really thought about the difference between the bar topper corks and like a wine cork.
Yeah.
And I bet these are half the size.
Oh yeah, probably.
It
know,
feels
Half the
like
depth.
it feels like the glass one actually has a sort of a light seal made from synthetic on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
that
there.
wrapper
So
on
if you
it.
have a glass cork, it's really not. It's not the glass that's doing anything. It's the rubber gasket around it that's doing the
Right.
seal. And we all know rubber gaskets. Well, all of us scientists know the rubber gaskets are great for sealing processes.
There you
So it does the job of keeping the alcohol out. These are usually a soft plastic, polyethylene, polypropylene that'll resist the high alcohol content. And admittedly, the sealing surface is pretty small on them. It's only just a very small percentage of the cork, but
it's a
it'll do
pain in the
job
butt
as
to
well.
get off. I know that.
They're very difficult to get out.
So, Mark, talk about this bottle here or just the company, because we had a pretty interesting. It was kind of our first experience into.
Yeah, that's what
Oh,
really
that was a good
exposed
story.
us to us, right? So when we were in New York City, we were interviewing John Glazer, who was the founder of Compass Box, and he was the master blender there for a long time. He's since retired, but we were having some whiskey with him. He opened up a bottle, and I'd never even heard of such a thing. But as he got into it and started pouring it, his nose just picked up on it immediately. And the next thing you know, he stuck his nose in the bottle and he smelled the cork, and he kind of got pretty perturbed and called his second in command over, his vice president, Mark, and said, "Put this in a baggie. We need to take this back with us back to
Yeah, he was not happy.
across the pond," because he literally said, this bottle's been corked. They they took the whiskey and the cork and were taking it back to complain to their cork distributor, and because I guess he pays a lot of money for good cork, and every bottle that's getting tainted, if you will, that's an upset and maybe potential lost customer. And when you're paying for high quality grade A corks, I would assume.
Yep.
And you're putting your name in a product. So I didn't know such a thing even existed. But I learned something that night because he let us smell it. It was like, oh, shit, yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
it
There's
almost
something wrong
smelled
with it.
like
the milk's gone back.
fungus or
Once he
something.
told us what to look for.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
That was
Moldy.
the thing.
Yeah, there's so many different flavors in whiskey, and wet newspaper is generally not a good flavor to have in there. And so when you've known it, when you've detected it before,
Right.
you can pick it up much easier.
Well,
it is a little bit hard.
Ironically, that same trip, the very next
my
night,
gosh.
you went
Yeah.
and called out an
So,
old
At the
bottle.
so
Whiskey
we were
Fest.
at a whiskey fest. Is that? Yeah, it was in New York.
Yeah.
And
Whiskey advocate.
I tasted it was like a Lefroy 25.
Yeah, I think
Yes,
so.
we stood in line for that thing.
We stood in line for Lefroy 25, and I tasted it. I'm like, that bottle's been corked. It was not good whiskey.
There was something off.
And I told the person in front, and they're like, "Oh no,
They
You don't know what you're talking
That's
about.
what they. That's exactly right.
yeah." But that bottle's corked. And the thing is, depending on where they get the corks, depending on who you're buying it from, the fungus and things are natural to every environment. And if there's overspray or there's any treatment of the corks, that 2,4,6 trichloroanisole can be created, and it doesn't take much. And
Right.
there's the bottle, and maybe even a whole batch of bottles, a whole batch of corks could be contaminated. And so you lose a whole bottling of whiskey.
Is there any way they can test for that before they?
Not on every cork. See, that's the
That's a
thing.
lot of corks.
You can
It's
test.
batch
You can
testing.
test a certain number of corks, and that's what you would typically do. But you can't test every cork.
Right. So random sampling of your production line, and
And if they all test clean, then you just assume that everything else is
and I
reasonably
remember,
clean.
Yeah, I remember John was talking about that they buy from cork growers that specifically do not spray anywhere near the trees to prevent that from potentially contaminating them.
It's so many little things to think about. Like you just take for granted on this, right? I mean, it's a cork. Yeah, but there's a whole thing about corks that you have
and all these
it's a cork.
All these liquids can extract very easily. The alcohol and the water are both will extract that material. So it doesn't take much.
So out of curiosity, in this narrow band of the world that this stuff has grown, how big of an area are we talking about?
That I wasn't able to get to. I didn't get an acreage or a number of trees or anything like that.
We were talking before the show started. I mean, just think about the amount of corks that are used in the liquor.
Jeez.
And then we're not even talking about cork board, cork floor, cork. I mean, cork's used for a lot of things. Yeah. And you sit there and think about it, that it's got to be a large area. Yeah, you can reharvest every 7 years. That's great for 6 or 7 harvests. That's wonderful, whatever. Maybe obviously more than that, 200 years you said. But just thinking about how many bottles have corks in them, I'm thinking you already ran out.
Well, and you're harvesting every 7 years.
Right.
So I've got a small cork farm. I've made my harvest. No more money for 7 years because I'm going to sell it that year and that's it.
When I looked at the range of the trees, it was a decent sized area. Like you were looking at maybe a third ish of like Spain and Portugal, that the habitat for the tree was available there. And then like the western coast of like in parts of Italy and Sicily and Sardinia and that Mediterranean basin area, and then parts of northern Africa, but like most of it was Spain and Portugal. Okay. So I don't know how many cork farms there's got to be tons.
Oh, there's tons of them. Yeah.
And they may just be, hey, I'm growing grapes, or I've got, I'm raising cattle or sheep or whatever, and I also have cork trees.
And that's not what happens.
It's not a full-time deal. It's a,
extra money.
It's a side hustle.
Admittedly, they don't. There's not much waste. So you showed the pictures. They're popping corks out of those cuts. Those cuts are either ground up and put back together for a cork floor, cork board.
Yeah, none of it's wasted.
Yeah, I mean, it's all put to use.
It's recyclable, right? Isn't it?
What do you mean by
if you can you
yes,
recycle
no.
this stuff?
You could take a bunch of used corks that were used in bottles, and they would grind them up and turn them into cork backing for your floors. You've got vinyl plank flooring that's got cork board underneath it, stuff like that. Yeah, why would you should
right.
Stuff doesn't break down.
Everyone had a comment, so I teach classes to my servers about the proper way to serve wine. And there's a whole situation about it, and all of it revolves around the cork and making sure that the bottle is still good.
Right. Sure.
And you're presenting the bottle to the person who ordered it so they can verify that, yes, that's the bottle that I actually asked for. And then you're taking the cork out, and the first thing you're doing is setting the cork next to whoever ordered it so they can inspect the cork themselves. 99% of people don't even realize that's what the deal is. They're like, "Oh, this is cool,"
They go through the motion,
but you're technically you're looking at that cork to see if there's any sort of like weird anomalies about the cork that might suggest that there's a problem with the wine. And then they're pouring the person who ordered it a taste of the wine so they can sample the wine. It's not so you can be like, "Oh, well, that's very good." It's to make sure it's not bad.
Yeah.
And occasionally,
that's a really good point.
In my years of doing this, I have had bottles where the corks crumble and break, where the corks are, discolored somehow. They're just bad corks. And in that case, we're pulling everything off the table and we're going to go get a fresh bottle, because you can't guarantee a natural product. Like sometimes they're just bad.
So in that instance, though, does the restaurant get a refund from the distributor at that point?
Yep. Okay. So we'll send it back to our distributor and let them know, hey, there's a problem with this particular bottle. We'll save the cork, we'll save the bottle, and we'll get credit for it.
That's cool.
So I think everyone's point is right. That is one thing you would be able to smell in that cork is that wet newspaper. And also you'd smell vinegar and whatever. If the wine is bad, you'd smell vinegar and things like that. So that's the reason. You're right. It is exactly the reason I smell the cork.
From a fun side of whiskey and cork is all kinds of videos out there, and you can YouTube this, but when the cork does break in a bottle, there are some pretty interesting ways to get it out.
Right.
Most people, wine, whatever else, they usually just put it through a filter or sieve, something like that, decant it or something like that. But there are some pretty unique, interesting ways to, and I've done it many times, of pulling a cork out. I think the best way I would say is probably using a plastic bag.
Yeah.
Just throwing it in there and then doing it just right. But you usually still have to take the whiskey out or liquid out. But
Yeah. If you Google cork in whiskey bottles, half the hits are how to pull the cork out of a whiskey bottle.
Right.
Yeah.
It's tough because you don't know.
The cork has a lifestyle, man. It's all kinds of stuff going on with it we learned tonight.
A lot of times, that cork, when it breaks and you're trying to get that thing out of there, you're going to end up with chunks of cork in your whiskey. And as difficult as it is, you need to strain that out right now and put it, get it out of there, because the cork sitting in your whiskey will affect your whiskey if it takes a long time. And honestly, I have a whole jar full of corks that I've used, that I save from my bottles just in case I get into a Deanston and it breaks and I got to go through the process. At
Poor
least
Deanston.
I've got a new. Yeah, I hate beating up on that one distillery, but that seems to be the one you have the most issues with. It really does.
And they're not old bottles necessarily either. With that will crack.
Right.
They may it may be the supplier that they use,
Yeah.
or the grade of cork
Right.
that they use.
It's got to be the grade of cork they're getting. So the question also is, whenever you open a really old bottle of whiskey, if it's from the 70s or 80s, you're probably going to break the cork, or you got to be real
Just
careful.
be careful when you're
You got to be
opening it.
very careful to do that. Yeah.
So that when you get out the saber.
Just ka-ching. So who knew, the little tiny thing in that bottle is such an important thing, and where it came from, all the little things
For
that
real.
happened to it,
For real.
and all of the science that's upgraded since then, and we're really just kind of scratching the surface of the story of cork. But wow, cork is a pretty important job.
Well, and the thing that every time I would look at more information on it, I was stunned at how perfect a container sealer cork is. It's a natural product. You've been using it for thousands of years, and it's just a plug out of a cork tree of this weird oak tree that has this weird bark that comes off that you can use to seal things. It floats. You can use it for floats for fishing and for netting and things like that. Or it's a crazy
for switches. I mean, you use them to turn valves and open valves and close valves. You know what I mean?
Well, and it's a great insulator, both temperature-wise and electrically. It's a miracle product.
No corking way.
No
cork in way.
Truly corking.
I guess we can now put a cork in it.
Yes.
I think
Yeah,
we're corked out.
There we go.
It's got to get them all out right
Thanks,
now.
Dr. Scotch.
You're very welcome. It's a great topic. I'm glad we came up with it for this week, and glad I could come help.
Yeah, that was fun. I learned
It's
a lot.
definitely interesting and very important.
Yep.
So what else we got to do tonight, though, Drew? We are skipping a particular segment that we've had for the last couple of weeks, our Patron segment, but that's all right. We'll get one on here soon.
I think we should shout out our trip that we just
I
took.
think so,
and talk
too.
You guys
about,
wanna talk about that real
let's
quick?
talk about that
I
real
think
quick.
that'd be fun.
Well, let me go see if I can find Andrew and help.
Excellent.
Yeah, since you didn't go.
Yeah, I didn't go. I wasn't invited.
Maybe next time, Dr. Scotch.
Maybe not.
Dr. Scott's really geeked out tonight. That was pretty interesting.
Heck
He
yeah.
said some things that did not make sense to me in English, but it's okay.
You know,
Came up
I
with-
wonder if he's a member of that Cork organization.
What exactly is he a doctor of?
I don't
Is
really
he a biologist?
know.
Is he Andrew, do you know?
What is he, doctor?
Did you see him in the hallway?
He's a doctor of Scotch.
He's a doctor.
He's a
Scott.
doctor
of
of
Scotch.
Scotch.
I
Fair
think
enough.
he's not a doctor in real life, but he plays one on YouTube. I think that's what
That's what he
was.
says.
That
yes.
seems fair.
That's
That seems fair.
1980s saying there, but it's okay. It's good. Yeah, this weekend we had a whirlwind of a fantastic weekend. Lots
Quick
of travel, quick trip. Saw some amazing friends. Met some new friends.
Yeah.
And we tasted some fabulous whiskey.
Fancy whiskey.
We were given the red carpet treatment from the Virginia Distilling Company. They opened up their doors on a Saturday for us and gave us a tour. They showed us everything, how their distillery was laid out. I got to say, I was incredibly impressed. It was very clean and it was very well thought out and designed. I mean,
Beautiful.
Dr.
They
Scotch would have liked it.
they can move liquid from one spot to the next with just a few, it was really, really impressive. And then they took us in their dunnage houses, and we
partaked.
We got into some whiskey and some casks.
There were drills involved.
Yeah, we did get to see that.
You know what was really amazing? Honestly, truthfully, every whiskey we tasted was really good, and it was hard to make some decisions. But what blew me away mostly was just, to your point, it was beautifully organized, well thought out. But their new make was so good. And normally new make, you're like, oh, that's new make, right? But it was so fruity. I don't know how they're doing it, but it was so good. And that's the base, what's going into what they're making.
Yeah, they're very intentional about what they're putting in.
Yeah, and Amanda has got so much, experience and intelligence behind her. She's got some amazing things happening there.
Yeah.
Well, she's passionate. You can tell she really gets into her job, and it's almost, it makes you envious to see how much she's really excited about what she's doing, which is, you love to see someone in the right position, because then they're going to be successful.
Yeah, it's a little ways to get out there, but we'd highly recommend going. I want to go out again. I would love to go out in the fall or when there's some foliage, because it was kind of wintry out there. But
I would say we probably went at the worst time of year to actually see the natural surroundings, but it was still a great trip. And I have to say, I've been to a lot of distilleries, and when they taste you through their lineup, you're usually like, okay. There's a couple that were decent. I have yet to have a bad whiskey from them. They're all very good. Some are better than others, granted, because that's, there's going to be winners and losers, but none of them are, they're all flavorful, and you can tell that they all come from that same, it's because the new make is good.
Yeah, it's a consistent new make no matter what they finish it in.
If that's what American single malt is going forward, take my money.
Well, and
absolutely.
I was digging through the Virginia Distillery Company's website and found the American single malt course.
I saw that as well.
Oh yeah,
that costs nothing to take, and you get in and you just start. And Amanda goes through a great detail of the history, the process, the materials, all that kind of stuff. It's a pretty cool course.
And they haven't even been around that long.
No.
So it'll be interesting to see what they're doing in
right.
5, 10, 15 years.
They're not cutting corners.
No.
I mean, they opened their doors and started making whiskey, and that's all they make. They make American single malt. They didn't decide that they needed to make some other juice to keep the lights on.
I can't imagine how they invested
it.
enough to do that. It takes a huge investment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, we came back with several bottles amongst ourselves, right? So obviously we brought some of our bottle that we bottled with them, but I know I picked up 2 other bottles on top of that, a coffee and a Fino sherry. I know Drew got a Fino sherry. You got one.
I got a gingerbread stout.
Gingerbread stout, right? So I'm sure here in the very near future, we're going to sit down and do kind of an A to Z with Virginia Distilling Company and go through a lot more of their bottles and have some fun. But in the meantime, we do owe a tasting to our patrons with our bottle from Virginia. We're going to wait a couple weeks on that to make sure that everybody's had an opportunity to not only order it online, but to get it, shipped to them so that they can have it in front of them when we do that. So stay tuned. I'm thinking probably within the next 2 weeks, just to make sure everybody's got it in front of them. And then we'll do that on our Tuesday night drams for our patrons.
Yep.
Cool.
And if you're not a patron, sign up. We also do Zooms on Tuesdays with our patrons and hang out, and we can give you the link to buy a bottle. We've got quite a few left, so they're available as of right now.
Yeah,
but,
it's close to half gone.
Half gone.
Yeah, let's call it that for right now, which is not bad. I mean, considering they've only had the link for a week. But I'm super excited to see the reception. Once it starts getting into folks' hands, good. I'm stoked to hear the feedback, because I just know it's going to be good.
It's a tasty bottle.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, are you guys ready to move on to a little bit of
trivia.
You got a trivia?
I do, actually.
Well.
It might not be as good as last week's. I will say Joe put on a hell of a performance on his trivia, but
Man, no kidding.
Yeah,
is it about corks?
That was fun.
It's pretty good.
Is it about corks?
Actually, I was going to do corks, and I decided not to because it got so, Dr. Scotch probably would have been all right.
Yeah,
but none of us would have. I looked at some of the questions. I'm like, oh.
I talked to Dr. Scotch about putting a cork one together, and he had 10 questions, but it just
get a little
kind of boring.
hairy.
Some of it was, and some of it he talked about, so it wouldn't have worked out.
Oh, we don't have a guest spot tonight.
Oh,
Dun, dun, dun,
I don't know if I can just do this and be like, oh, I'll just put us there.
put us
There we
there.
go.
Perfect.
We're the
Beautiful.
guests
Whiskey
now.
trivia.
Nice little trees right there.
Yes.
Just makes it nice.
Do you have a picture from Virginia?
Happy little trees.
Little
there.
Bob. That's pretty. Hey, little trees, little
Happy
feathers.
little trees.
Make us a little bigger for us. All right. Whiskey trivia. Let's get going, people.
All right.
You ready to do this? Sean, you want to go first?
Sure, why not? Question 1. Which Scotch whiskey brand was the first to release a limited edition that featured a unique cask maturation process? A. Glenfiddich, B. Macallan, C. Ardbeg, or D. Glendronach? Huh.
I
What do you guys think?
for some reason my gut was going McKellen right off the bat,
That was
but
my thought.
but now
I
that I'm
think
thinking,
Glenfiddich.
not
That seems like something they would do. It's a limited edition. So
a unique cask maturation. I honestly am going to say it probably is Ardbeg. They're the crazy ones in the bunch. I mean, McKellen is traditional.
yeah.
Glendronach is pretty traditional.
Ardbeg?
Yeah, when you think about some of the names of bottles that Ardbeg has come out and what they've done, I mean, they even took a bottle of Space. You know, they get a little fun and crazy with the cheese whiz.
I'm gonna go
Although they
A.
haven't been around that
Yeah.
long.
So what do you got?
I got A.
A,
Yeah.
Mark?
You going
what do you
C?
Yeah, what the heck? I'll go with C.
You're going to go C. We got lots of A's in the chat. A couple C's. A Solera. All right, let's see what we got here for the answer. Oh,
My gut was right. I said my very first reaction was McKellen. Just
Oh, the
because
Fine and Rare series.
Mhm.
Okay, which included unique and experimental cask finishes.
interesting. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Over. Question 2. What year did the first official Scotch whiskey regulation, the Scotch Whisky Act, come into effect? A, 1823, B, 1830, C, 1901, or D, 1947? Where are we? The regulation, the first official Scotch whiskey regulation, the first official. So
There you go.
it-
Very well.
it was not 1823. That's too early.
Is it?
47 is too late because it's after Prohibition.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, because whiskey wasn't actual official licensed and being regulated until 1824, I thought.
Well, then that wouldn't that be 1823 then?
Well, there wouldn't be a regulation in 1823 if they weren't actually enforcing things until 1824.
Well, you got to give them time to get regulated.
Yeah.
Regulators.
Really? You think
Roll
they give
out.
them time? You think they give them time? I'm going to say 1830.
All right, we got some
So we got,
C's,
I'm going to
A's,
say,
B's.
based on 1824, I'm going to go with A. It's got to be A.
We got mostly B's so far.
Yeah.
Let's see what we got. And you guys, what you guys got?
I'm going to say
A? I'm going A.
Okay.
Andrew's A.
I originally wanted to say A. I'm going to stick with A.
You're going to go
Yep.
A. Mark?
I'm going to say B just to be different.
All right, fair enough. It is A.
Dude, you told it.
Boom.
1924 when they first enforced.
You
so
called it.
1923.
1823,
There you go.
first
Scotch
regulation.
Whiskey Act.
There you go.
All right. Batting 50.
Question 3. Which Scotch whiskey distillery produces the world's only Scotch whiskey aged in barrels made from locally sourced
You
wood?
guys should know this one. A. Glenfiddich.
Oh, I'm
B,
sorry, A, Glenfiddich.
Abelauer.
B. Abelauer, C. Glendronach, and D. Balvenie.
Andrew gets so zoned in on the
I
question,
do. I'm like,
he can't
oh my
read the
gosh,
answers.
what am I doing?
It's like he's taking the SATs. He's
He
focused,
is.
man.
I'm not.
He
I'm
didn't
not
want
looking
to
at the
miss.
next question. I'm going to answer these.
Answer this.
Ah.
Why should we know this?
Yeah, we've talked about this in the past.
Did we?
No.
We have.
Locally
no,
sourced
yeah.
wood. So that would.
How local are we
So
talking here?
technically, that's European oak, right?
I don't have to pee.
It is Mount Up. You're right, David. Mount Up regulators.
Oh, my God.
Oh, no. I'm going to go with, B.
We got some A's, some B's, some D's.
I'm gonna go with D. The Balvenie.
Some Marcus Glenfiddich.
I'm going my Abelauer.
Abelauer. Okay. Sean?
I want to say Balvenie.
Why do you want to say that?
That was
I don't know.
just my first.
We got
when I
we got a lot of
read
D's
through, I was
out
like,
there.
I
Oh,
think that was it.
somebody's been Google searching this. I think
There we go.
There it
All
is.
The Balvenie Distillery is famous for sourcing its own wood for casks, including oak from the surrounding forests in Scotland, creating a truly local and unique aging process.
There
We
you
don't
go.
even have trees in Scotland. What are you talking about?
We cut down the tree.
We took and made one barrel out of it.
The tree. Damn good barrel.
Don't-
We reuse
Everybody's
it.
got to share.
All right, Sean, what you got?
Let's see. Which famous Scotch whiskey brand was originally established by a family of wine merchants in the 19th century? A. Glenlivet, B. Johnny Walker, C. Chivas Regal, and D. Lagavulin.
It's Johnny Walker. Walker. I think people are doing pretty good so far. I've seen a lot of right
I think
answers.
so too.
So Dewar's was a pharmacist or something, so that doesn't count. Good thing it's not in the answer.
And go Chivas.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Chivas also.
I'm feeling regal.
Regal.
Yeah.
I actually had this one wrong when I put it together because I thought it based on something that we did at your chop house. And I was like, I remember that story, but I was wrong. So
Fact checking is important.
fact checking myself. So,
There you go.
Yeah.
So
All right.
what did you have, Andrew?
I maybe C. I don't think it's D, because that's not. I don't think you'd have wine merchants in Isla, but so I'll go with C. Oh, I did.
Chivas. There we go.
So, yeah,
Chivas Regal,
feeling a
originally
little bit
founded by the
regal.
Chivas brothers.
That's
wine
right.
and spirit merchants who became renowned for their blended Scotch whiskey.
Well.
Renowned.
Question 5. What is the oldest operating distillery in Scotland, and when was it founded? So wait a minute.
Continuously operating.
So you get bonus points for putting. They had the years on here, and I thought it was kind of like, well, duh. If you put the years on here,
Kind
Right.
of gives it away.
that gives
doesn't
it away. So I'm
That
like,
would have been great. So what is the oldest operating distillery in Scotland? Glenfiddich, Macallan, Bowmore, and Ardbeg.
and if you put the year, we know you Googled it because
That's true. That-
Yeah,
that's
you
Continuously operating. Is that what we're going for?
oldest operating.
African or European swallow?
Technically, it is still operating.
But did it ever close?
I'm not telling you that.
They all closed at one point, I think.
This
oldest
SDR is really good.
operating
It is.
Distillery.
I'm going Mactown, man.
I'm gonna say A.
I'm
with
going
the Glen.
C. Bowmore.
Really?
Look at
my favorite.
Ethan out there putting some numbers on it.
Oh man, he just ruined it for everyone. 17.
Glenturret is not one of the answers, Ethan. So what'd you guys say?
I said A.
C. Bowmore.
I'm going Mac Daddy.
McAllen.
B.
But more.
Oh, it is.
Oh, it is
Andrew got
Look at
one.
Isla. Isla was founded in 1779, which is younger than 1763. But okay, it's considered one of the oldest licensed distilleries in Scotland.
I think the licensed part.
It's
maybe
licensed
the-
and still going. Yeah. I mean, Glenturret's
That
still
wasn't in
going.
the
Well, and
question.
maybe Glenturret may have closed and reopened and
Andrew's
things like that.
slapping that,
I wish I had been paying attention. I've been keeping track.
crushing it out
He's
there.
doing well
Stick
tonight.
a cork in it.
Which famous whiskey brand was the first to introduce a single cask release to the market? A. Macallan, B. Glenfiddich,
corked
C. Ardbeg, or D. Lafroig.
Hmm.
A frig.
A single cask release.
This is a tough one.
So we
I did
tried-
not know the answer to this one.
I want to say C. I want to say
You want to say
Ardbeg.
Ardbeg?
A single.
No.
That
cask.
sounds like something they would do.
I don't think so, because they actually are against giving their casks to anybody. That's why you don't see any SMW as hard bags.
Hmm.
I'm gonna go with D on this one.
Single cask.
So you're gonna go Lafroig.
No, I don't think that's right. They wouldn't do that. I think B. Glenfiddich. They
I'm
would really
going
single
back
cask.
to the Mac Daddy again. I
Are
keep
ya?
asking. If I keep guessing McAllen, sooner or later
Sean,
I get it
what'd
right.
you say?
I said C. We got
So
a
you're saying
wide
Ardbeg?
spread on this, man.
Yeah, it looks like all of
Well,
it.
everyone else too. We got A's and actually A's and D's. 1B. Let's see. Glenfiddich. Are you
Tom
kidding
R.,
me?
you're right.
Andrew's
Glenfiddich
over here
was the
killing
first
it, man.
distillery to release a single cask whiskey with the Glenfiddich 40-year-old in 2009. That was the first single cask.
That makes sense
Interesting.
for a single cask. The
Yeah.
older stuff. I didn't even think about that being a thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good question.
It's
Who's
me.
up?
Which distillery recently launched a partnership with a renowned chef to create a food and whiskey pairing experience? A. Glenmorangie, B. Lagavulin, C. Macallan, or D. Talisker?
If you all miss this one, something's wrong.
Well, the word recently is not really accurate if it's what
Recently.
I would classify as recent.
Really?
I mean,
In the grand scheme of Scotch whiskey history.
right.
Yeah.
Nothing happens fast in Scotch.
So is it C?
I'm going to
I
say,
think it's
I
C.
keep guessing Macallan, so I'm going to stick with it.
Sooner or later, it's going to come up.
Which is ironic.
So
It is ironic
The
that
thing
that's
that threw me
like-
off on this question is, I don't know if they talked about pairing this whiskey with any food. Now, I understand the chef provided
I know.
information on
You are absolutely
casking,
right.
but that's
All
just-
right.
I just
All right.
assume it
You're
goes with
thinking
everything.
too hard.
I know. So I'm going to go see McKellen.
It's Macallan, Sean.
It's
Macallan.
going to be Glenmorangie, isn't it?
It is.
Oh, you son of
Taylor Cake, Taylor.
Glenmorangie partner with renowned chef and restaurateur Alain Ducasse
See,
to
that's
create
recent.
a unique food and whiskey pairing experience that celebrated the depth of flavors in both.
That's recent. We're all getting hung up on those edition bottles from Macallan,
Mhm.
and that's when I was saying that to me that doesn't feel recent.
Right.
Question 8. Which Scotch whiskey distillery is known for its unique floating cask warehouse
This was interesting.
built on the waters of the River Spey? Aberlour, Macallan, Glenfiddich, the Glenlivet.
So is it like a houseboat?
It must be.
You had that?
STR.
Maybe.
It's a little Israeli STR.
Milk and honey. Little milk and honey there.
Milk and Honey is another like spotlight for me right now. They're making some good whiskey.
So it's like ambrosia.
It is.
All right. I'll try some in a minute.
So which Scotch whiskey distillery is known for its unique floating cask warehouse
Floating
on
cask
the
warehouse.
River Spey? Aberlour, Macallan,
Gotta go
Glenfiddich.
Is that
D.
kind of like a casino? Like you gotta
It
put it
is.
on the river
Yeah.
so you can gamble.
It shakes the cast for you.
That's right.
I'm going to go with D at Glenlivet. It
We've
sounds
got
like
some
something they would do.
mostly D's and some A's.
I'm going to say D.
All
I'm
right.
going to go Aberlour. I said that earlier. Yeah.
Let's see what we got here.
Glenlivet.
Glenlivet.
Jeez, oh, Pete.
I got it again. Glenlivet built a floating cask
Cheating.
warehouse. In 2017? No, I did not look these up.
I wonder how big that is.
Even Andrew's surprised that you guys like, I got it
I
again.
got it again?
Well, see, the thing is,
That's corked up.
So what I'm finding here is Glenlivet and Glenfiddich are pretty innovative in their whiskey, more than many of these other ones.
I
That's
would agree with
interesting.
that.
All right, question 9.
Times.
9 times. Which major Scotch whiskey brand was one of the first to introduce a sustainable packaging initiative, including 100% recyclable bottles?
Well.
Well. What do we have?
What's the
here?
answers?
Oh, sorry. A, Glenlivet. B, Johnny Walker.
Attaboy.
C, Glenfiddich. Or D, Chivas Regal. Aren't all bottles
What is
recyclable?
wrong with you?
Aren't all bottles 100% recyclable? That's what stunned me with this
Absolutely
question.
not.
He gets a question and he's just like, robot, pause.
Well, they used to make them out with the uranium glass.
Yeah, well, like, I mean, all of their bottles are 100% recyclable. I mean, you throw this in, it's glass. Okay.
I don't know what to tell you,
But
man.
I don't know what to tell you. So,
Hey, the question is
So
100%
Glenlivet?
recyclable. What do you got?
Glenfiddich. I got to go Glenfiddich. See, because they've been doing all the innovative stuff.
Mark?
I'm got to go with Andrew's guess because he's gotten every other one right.
Sean?
I'm going to say A.
Glenlivet.
The
We've got
Livette.
Yeah,
Lots of A's.
that'd be my second question.
One
second
B, 2 B's. Let's see.
bet. Oh,
Johnny Walker.
Johnny Walker has been a leader in sustainability, introducing fully recyclable packaging and bottles made with 100% recyclable.
What's up with the freaking...
Oh, well, okay, so made with 100% recycled materials. That's different than the 100 bottles are 100% recyclable.
Yeah.
Bad
It should
question.
say including 100% recycled.
If you all want to
bottles.
make the trivia each week, just let me know.
Oh,
I didn't say
go and
anything.
complain a little bit more, Andrew.
I love your
I'll shut
questions,
up.
Drew.
I'll
All
shut
right.
up. They're great.
Question 10. Which distillery recently launched a limited edition series inspired by the natural elements and environmental changes in Scotland? A. Glendronach, B. Macallan, C. Highland Park, or D. Aberlour?
Macallan.
Macallan, you're just going to keep going. Is that like your C on the question? I'm just going to go C.
Macallan every time.
You can't help yourself, can you?
It's gonna be.
I'm going to go with C because Highland Park seems to have like all kinds of different series about all kinds of different things.
Vikings, dude.
I was gonna go with C, yeah, because they're limited edition. They've got lots of limited editions, and they are
don't
up
know,
where they
man.
are.
I
They're
just didn't see the
definitely
Vikings being too environmental.
Man, they planted a bunch of people in the ground.
Oh, skull!
Well, and Highland Park is very closely tied to the environment around them with the North Sea and everything. They're feeling it.
Okay. All right. What's the answer?
We got lots of answers. Lots of B's and A's. 1 C.
Talk to me, Goose.
Highland Park.
Boom.
Introduced limited edition known as the Orkney Elements Collection.
It was really popular. I've never heard of it.
Inspired by the extreme weather
You're
of
just
the
mad because
island.
it was never McAllen.
No.
That's right. He didn't get one. Is he 0 for 10?
I think I got one.
He's 0 for however many
I got to be
McAllens
at least
were there.
80% on that one. That one was great.
Andrew,
You did
that's
really well.
You did well, man. Nice job. How'd you all do in the chat? Love to hear from you in there. And just
I'm going to
push
give
numbers.
myself a D.
Give
I think
yourself
I got
a D.
6 out of 10.
Not bad.
I think with the curve, I still passed.
Questions were a little hard, but
don't know if that's how that
speaking
works.
of, if anyone would like to submit trivia questions, please do at
Yes.
scotchfordummies@gmail.com. Love to hear it. We'll post your name on the trivia if you do it. So
If you want.
We might even let you come on and read the questions.
heck yeah,
Oh, that'd
that'd
be
be
awesome.
Martin 4 for 10. That was rough. Tom Marr 6 for 10. Bob H 5 for 10. Peter Newman 50%, maybe 60. Engineered Network 3 for 10. Shocker.
For all those patrons that are watching that have not been a guest on the show, you're in the crosshairs, so be ready for the call.
That's right. I tried to get Ethan, but he's on right now, but he ghosted me on Discord.
Oh,
sad.
well, that's his way of saying no. I don't want
That's
to
a
do that.
no. That's a big no. 9.
It's all right.
It's okay.
all right. Not
We'll get
everybody
him on
wants
next
to do it.
time. Wow.
Well,
fellas.
good topic. It was a
Good to
good
know.
trip last weekend. I had a really good time with you guys. I'm actually excited to finally get the bottles. They were muled home. Long story there, but we've got them, and so we're excited to be getting into them. What do we got going on?
Well, same old stuff. We got reviews. We've got our shorts coming out. We've got a couple more picks coming out. We're just busy. We're just staying. The motor's running.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
Which is good.
we actually shot a couple of shorts tonight. Some different fun stuff, and we've got a couple ideas of some new fun things that are actually educational to the viewer and kind of entertaining and fun,
right?
You know, so hopefully you guys appreciate those.
Yeah, and in the spirit of everything else, you know, we're out here having fun, and if you've got ideas, you know, suggestions, shoot us an email. We'd love to hear from you and your thoughts.
Yep, join us, become a patron. Join us then on Tuesday nights for a little bottle discussion, Zoom call.
Yep, 2 weeks we'll be doing a tasting of the Virginia Distilling bottle that we bottled. So if you're not a patron and don't have a bottle, hurry up and become one and get that thing ordered so you have it in time.
There you go.
Sounds good. Boys,
all right.
Fun night.
Cheers.
Happy Thursday.
See you next week.
Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
3, 2, 1.